Hello, in this program I'm just going to do some demos with a for loop here and just show you how to write for loops and walk you through how they work. So let's take a look at this form. I've got a multi-line text box, or a text box whose multi-line property is set to true, and I've got a button here that I can click on and stuff will happen. So let's just write a simple for loop, and a for loop is just a structure that repeats over and over again. So it's a way of repeating a set of operations. You put it inside a loop, and there's different types of loops, and one of the most common ones is a for loop. So let's type the word FOR and hit tab twice, and you will see that Visual Studio will stub out a for loop for you. Now, what do all these pieces mean? Well, the first part, before the first semicolon there, this is where we create a loop counter that keeps track of how many times we've been through the loop. It doesn't need to go there. You could take it out and put it up there. That would be fine. I mean, but you just, at some point, you're going to need a loop counter. So let's, we'll leave it where it was. And as long as this condition is true, we do the body of the loop and then update the loop counter. So every time we go through this loop, we're adding 1 to I. I is our loop counter. And what's length? Well, length is just a word that the computer throws in there. So we have to figure out, well, how many times do we want to loop? Let's just say 10. So I is going to go from 0 up to, well, it's going to go up to 9, 0 to 9. So let's try that and just see what it does here. And then we'll put in textbox1.text equals, actually we'll append to textbox1. We'll say loop, and then I. We'll actually print out the value of I, and then we'll put on a carriage return, a /r/n. That's the escape code for /r/n. That's the escape code for a new line. All right, so let's just watch this and see what happens. So if I run this and click go, boom, loop 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? I printed out this statement 10 times because that's how many times we looped. We looped from 0 up to 10. We could start at 1 and say as long as we're less than or equal to 10, that would work too. Let's run that and click go. And you can see now we start at 1 and we count up into, as long as I is less than or equal to 10, we do the body of the loop. All right, and now what else could we do? Now we don't have to go up by ones every time, right? We could say as long as I is less than or equal to 100, I plus equals 5. Add 5 to I, right? So we're going to add 5 to our loop counter every time. And now let's run it and see what happens. And click go, right? And you can, oh, what happened there? This is 1, 6, oh, because yeah, that's right. We're adding, because we're adding 1 every time, right? For some reason I thought we were going to start at 0. Let's start it at 0 there and see what happens. Go. So there we have 0, 5, 10. That's what I thought we were doing. So notice that we're adding 5 to our loop counter every time. There's nothing magic about that I++. We can do anything here that we want. In fact, we could even do nothing there. We can take that statement out and put it down here at the end of the loop body, and that'll work fine. And there's nothing magic about this here. We could take this and stick this up here, and now, so as long as I is less than or equal to 100, we're going to do the body of the loop. So, and if you've done while loops before, you know, hey, that looks a lot like a while loop. Like, there's really nothing magic about these different words. They're just different ways of writing structures that repeat. So let's go put that, restore this to the way it was. And we could count down too. Let's say we start I at 100, and as long as I is greater than or equal to 0, let's subtract 5 from I. So I minus equals 5. Subtract 5 from I. And now let's run this. So I is going to start off being 100 as long as I is greater than or equal to 0. We want to count down to 0, subtract 5 from I. So this is where we create a loop counter. As long as this statement is true, do this, and then update the loop counter. And that's going to, eventually this condition will be false, and when this condition becomes false, we jump down here, we break out of the loop. And we keep executing this code down here. Let's run that again. and click go, and you can see now it's counting down. Oh, I didn't put a scroll bar on here, but I can scroll down. And you can, just to show you where we end up here, text box 1 dot text plus equals done. There we go. So you can, let's put a breakpoint in there. That's F9 to set a breakpoint. Let me run this again and click go, and you can see I starts off being 100, and then we evaluate the condition. As long as this condition is true, we step into the body of the loop. We run the body of the loop, then we update the loop counter, and then we test the condition again. And we just keep going around and around. You can see that we're actually just looping, repeating this code until we've done it as many times as we specified, or basically until this condition here is false. When this condition becomes false, and I can actually I can force this condition to be false. Well, I is 45 right now, but in the debugger I can actually go in here and set I. Let me make it -10 or something, right? So is -10 greater than or equal to 0? No. So what's the next thing that happens? We break. Oh, we stepped into the loop. Okay, let's. That didn't work because apparently I don't know what I did wrong. All right, let's try this now. We'll set I to -35. Is -35 greater than or equal to 0? No. So we broke out of the loop, right? And we stepped right past the body of the loop, and we continue execution there. So that's how these for loops work. I highly recommend that when you write these loops, you use the Visual Studio's built-in cheat sheets, or not little cheat sheets, but little shortcuts for creating these loops, because that's going to guarantee that your curly braces line up and you've got all the pieces you need. So remember, if you just hit FOR and hit tab twice, it'll stub out the body of the loop for you. And then if you want to change the name of your loop counter to something else, you can. If you need to change that, you can. But it gives you the structure to work with. It works for all the other loops too. If you want a while loop, that works. If you want a do while loop, that works too. It works for all sorts of things. It works for, if we know that already. If, if else, that works too. That else, boom. All right. So I would say use Visual Studio's built-in shortcuts to write your code structures for you, and then just go modify them, and that'll guarantee that your parentheses and your curly braces all line up. So there was a quick little demo of how for loops work. And if you have any questions about that, please ask.